All right. Welcome to the what's this pre-draft preseason podcast review assessment of keepers, draft capital. We'll see. We'll touch all the topics. All the topics. Who's got the most to gain, most to lose, most pressure? Who's got the worst keepers, worst keeper decisions? All those fun topics. Got LaMagna here to weigh in. You know, he's done some statistical analyses and regression analyses to give us some real, analytical deep dive. But we'll give it a go. There is a crying baby in the background, so apologies. There's a dog that's likely going to bark any moment, so we'll give it a shot. So anyway, introduce yourself.
Well, thanks for having me on, Lowell. It's a great way to start the league season. No, you're not going to be there in person, so good to catch up. And it's a great way to start. Okay, this is really funny, but it's a great way to start my championship defense. Talk about how there is no way I'm going to be able to defend my championship because of all the picks that I traded. But let's get into it.
You're not Paul. You're not Paul. Okay, so you prepared a rundown. Why don't you?
I did prepare a rundown. So, a little welcome back to the league. What's changed? Two very important things have changed. The first, as you heard in the background, Lowell's a dad. So congrats to Lowell. You can hear baby in the background as well, all healthy there. But more importantly, we've fixed the problem that's plagued our league. Points for has returned back to the tiebreaker. So that will be our first tiebreaker in the event we need to break ties for wild cards. So, two things, both equally important, but it's going to be a fun and exciting year. And I think we're going to start it off with the draft preview. So who should be in the driver's seat going into the draft, Lowell?
Okay, so I think we go into the offseason. People enter the offseason and they just sort of assume one person or team, right, has all of the has the most to gain or most capital as the best opportunity, and then we see how it all plays out and we look at it in August. If you step back, I think you assess post keepers, post draft pick trading. I think Wagner has the most pressure. He's got the most opportunity. He's got Mahomes. The other keeper we will discuss later, but he has Mahomes, who's a top 5 quarterback, possibly top 3, 2 first-round picks, 2 second-round picks. So there's a lot of opportunity to add elite talent and walk away out of those first 2 rounds and basically be set. So I think he's got the most pressure just because of the opportunity. But there's some other teams that obviously have a lot to potential to gain as well. But that's the one that stands out to me as holy. I didn't realize how much he had amassed coming into the season from a draft pick perspective.
Yeah, he's done a great job going into and really getting ready for this year. And we'll get into some of the historic performances a little later. I think Justin definitely has a good foundation to build upon. 1-1 is always an advantage, being in that spot and looking and seeing, the fact that he's going to have his choice of, Taylor, McCaffrey. Could he even go a little off the board? And, well, no, Jefferson's been kept. So, Taylor and McCaffrey, either one of those are going to be able to build your team around. And I think that's just by process of elimination really going to be able to help him out. I'd also say that you have a pretty solid shot, and you definitely have the ability to really go in and run the table on this one. So I wouldn't sell yourself short either. You have 3 picks in the first 19, and then you also have 2 4th-round picks. I'm sorry, 3 4th-round picks, added 2 4th-round picks. So you really get into the spot before it starts to fall off in round 5, 6, 7. That's going to be, if you get your starting lineup there, you could be really just in the driver's seat for the back half of the draft.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I mean, and I don't want to lead with myself because I don't think I have the most. I mean, I think Wagner he picks second, right? He
Mhm.
picks 10th, and then he picks 12th. So he's got three of the top 12 picks. Now, yeah, it's keeper league. There's a lot of elite talent not there, particularly at the receiver position, and frankly, both running back, receiver, and quarterback, all three of those, I should say.
Mhm.
Um, so he has, I think, three of the first 12 is really, to me, impressive. Um, on from my stance, I I've utilized already some of those. So I took a first rounder, turned that into Josh Allen. I took a third rounder, but that's Mark Andrews. So yes, when I get through the fourth round, if we just look at the first four rounds, I still have 7 picks. I'll have 9 players. Yeah, I mean, in theory, that's essentially your starting lineup with a couple bench spots. That's certainly a wealth of capital. I appreciated you leaving a little bit of mystery and mystique around what Justin's going to do at the first overall pick. Those
No tipping
you
picks.
know
No
those in
no
the league
Woj.
office, right? No Woj bombs, no Sham drops. Um, those of us here in the league office have a little bit of inside information. We won't spill that. We'll let that play itself out. I think Justin, and this is I think a bigger conversation of by not keeping Lamar and going the way he did with keepers, allowed himself to really have an interesting opportunity. I mean, he's certainly at pick one, he could go in a number of directions, but I love the idea, right? I mean, he's kept Dobbins. The value's
Mhm.
incredible. If Dobbins comes back healthy, basically a complete year removed from an ACL tear, then yeah, that's a steal.
Yep.
Fournette, we'll see that offense is going to look a little different, more run heavy, but that offensive line is taking a lot of injuries. Still, the value at Fournette at like a 7th round keeper or something is pretty elite. So yeah, I think for Justin to go out and be able to get the top running back or a consensus number one or number two running back, whoever he prefers, he's going to be elite. He's not going to need to worry about running back, but he has to do that because of the risk with Dobbins, and he doesn't pick again to the end of two. So he needs to
Right.
hit on whatever he does. He can't miss. So the
It
pressure
can't
there
be.
is
Yeah.
so
And we'll get into that. The historic 1-1 pick.
yeah.
Sometimes it goes well. Sometimes they're out by week 4. So we will see how Justin can handle that. But also, who should be in the driver's seat? Who will have the most work to do? I think we all kind of know the answer to this one. It's Paul.
Yeah. Well,
Paul. Paul. Uh, Paul right here. One, because he's going to be in a very tough division. We didn't even mention that Eric is in that division as well, along with
mhm.
Kirshner and Wagner. But
Yeah,
Paul
that's a
keeping
really brutal division.
Waller, who might not be playing week 1, Joe Burrow, who
Mhm.
is still coming back from the appendicitis, and not picking until later in the 4th round. So he did get back into the 4th round, but not picking until
Did he get in the fourth
pick
round? I thought he
4.
was. I thought he
He
didn't get
he's
anything till the fifth.
he's at 4-8, and I think that trade was made 2
Oh, with
weeks
me.
ago. Yes,
Yeah,
that's
with
right.
me. Yeah. That was. I don't remember what the. Oh, that was for me to get the additional third.
Mhm.
So I have a pick in the third round. But yeah, I mean, for Paul, I mean, if Paul, he just punts on him. I think I traded like the next year 4 or something like that. Who cares? What that ends up being. We know Paul's in it for the fun, for the social aspect, less about the winning. So I'm okay with it.
I mean, he
Certainly,
he went he went for it last year, and as someone who's a veteran of going for it a bunch, sometimes it doesn't work.
yeah. I mean, he went for it, and I get it, right? I think last year was a season where there were, obviously your team, there were some teams that were scoring a lot of points, but overall, you
Mhm.
looked at the league and said, okay, if you can make the playoffs, there's a real chance anything can happen. There weren't a lot of dominant teams record
Well,
wise.
it
Manny
was
was high,
Tate's
but
historically had a
mhm,
historically dominant season, and
that was
I
it.
know that's it. So any given Sunday, that's what happened. That's why
Yeah.
I'm here, and that's why we'll transition to also. I probably have a lot of work to do. I don't start picking
Oh,
until round 5.
yeah.
I do have a fair amount of picks. Like I do have 2 round 5s, 2 round 6, 2 round 7. Cooper Cup, who is probably your fourth best player in fantasy by
Oh,
draft position if this was a like just a redraft league. So
mm,
there's stuff there, but certainly I'm gonna have to hit on all of those picks in what is the
yeah.
running back dead zone, and I
Oh,
don't like my
it's
odds.
brutal. It's brutal. You get to round 5. I mean, you're going to be looking at, like a JD McKissick, um, Jamal Williams. You're going to be looking at like straight backup city. Most likely, not entirely. I'm sure there'll be one. The draft always shake out weird. That we
Mhm.
know there'll be a run on quarterbacks at some point. We know there'll be a run on tight ends at some point. Someone will inevitably Wagner take a defense super early. So we know there'll be some things to shake that up. But you're right. I mean, the benefit for you is if the Stafford elbow injury is really nothing, which I don't know that I believe, but and he may just take one big hit and that's it. So you don't
Right.
know. But Cup, obviously, you have to take the risk.
Yep.
Tyreek Hill, I mean, all the reports here are that him and Tua look great. Tua and
Yeah.
Waddle looks great. They're hitting deep balls in practice. They're hitting deep shots in joint practices. So maybe, Tyreek Hill's going to surprise. I don't know that I like two, I don't think that Tua can support 2 top 15 receivers, which is where Hill and Waddle are both being
Right.
drafted. But is Hill a top 10? Probably a top 10 player. I think McDaniel's going to scheme a lot of things for him. So that works for you. If you hit on both the receivers, and they end up both top 10 or even top 5, I mean, that really mitigates a lot of the running back problem.
Mhm.
But you're going to have to get creative with that because you're
It's
right.
gonna get weird.
It's going to be real odd. You're going to be, I don't even want to know what's going to be happening. And I don't have them picking round 5. I'm like, I want nothing to do
Yeah.
with where that drop off is. But um, yeah, it's going to be tough. I do think, when we talk about who has just in general the most work to do, I know we talked about Wagner being in the driver's seat. Justin, I think to me, I think Justin has a lot of work to do because when you pick first overall, you're in a great position because you pick the number 1 player. You have that ability to dictate. But Justin's keepers are both running backs, so he's going to presumably 3 running backs. I mean, unless he goes crazy and goes like Diggs number 1 overall, which would be an interesting
Could
move.
happen.
He's going to get to the end of round 2, and at the 2-3 turn, he has to go receiver, and he probably has to go receiver round 4 and potentially round 5, depending what the board looks like. He has to load up on receiver and all those picks because his keepers are so running back heavy.
Mhm.
And so he has to not just hit on, players that have done it before, but he's got to hit on the right players, he's got
Yeah.
to make those work. Because if he doesn't and he picks somebody and they get hurt or they just, whatever the new quarterback situations, and there's all sorts of things that can happen. To me, that's a big risk of you're essentially saying he's got running back on lock. He doesn't have to worry about that until, late in the draft, but he has to hit on those 2, 3, 4, 5 picks because
Right.
he's not multiple picks in a round. He doesn't. He's a single pick guy. He's got the turn where he can dictate at the turn, but that's it. And to me, it's a feast or famine position to be number 1 overall because you have to hit on your keepers. You have to hit on all of those early picks because there's no room. There's no wiggle room.
Right.
You're not getting to dictate runs. Most likely, you're probably at the end of runs. So, um, yeah, I mean, I think it'd be interesting. I also I want to bridge that then into just talking about the keeper decisions generally. I mean, Justin made a really interesting one, not keeping Lamar Jackson in a contract
Hmm.
year. I don't know that I would have done that. I think that's a really bold move. Kind of surprised me, to be honest, when I saw it. But I get it. I get the strategy at number 1 overall. It makes sense. I don't know, other than Wagner, we'll certainly touch on. We've touched on Paul's keepers. I think Evans' keepers really, really head scratcher there. But were there any ones that really jumped out to you as being, well, I don't know, just seems like a risky play, or maybe just a
I
kind of
think
outside the box.
Derrick Henry at the 3, which
Yeah,
he is
yeah,
our oldest keeper, which is interesting because he was traded between you and Drew, and then a trade back. I think Derrick
Yep.
Henry at the 3. Look, he looked like he was getting more involved in the passing game. He was able to do a little more, but then he got hurt. So 3 is a tough pick to lose. It because presumably, I mean, you might take a running back in the first round, but you might
Mm-hmm.
not. If Derrick Henry's the anchor of your team, that's tough if he gets hurt. And he was an Iron Man, but he got hurt last year.
Mm-hmm.
Does he have enough to stay in? What are you thinking other than
Yeah.
the couple we've mentioned there?
I agree. I mean, Henry was a player. I mean, this is obviously doesn't matter now. I approached Drew at the trade deadline last year trying to get Henry for keeper
Mm-hmm.
purposes because in my mind, as a 3 this year, this is the last year where it makes sense, right? Unless he just goes out and has a ridiculous top 5 running back season again, you're not keeping him as a 2. I just don't think it's worth it. Um, to me, there are a bunch of issues with Tennessee that I see. One, Henry's over 30. He's just coming off a really serious foot injury. That's not great. Yeah, he didn't look great when he came back, although he probably rushed back for the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing I have worries me is we have an offense with no real playmakers on the outside. Robert Woods coming off an ACL tear. The reports are that he seems to be good. He's back doing some practicing. Pretty much, it feels like they're going to be rushing him, and he's going to rush to get back probably sooner than he's ready for. Treylon Burks is a highly touted rookie who has a lot of Deebo Samuel-esque qualities because that's how he was utilized at
Right.
Arkansas, but he doesn't have a good route tree. And he's, he's just AJ Brown light. Well, AJ Brown is pretty elite, pretty
Yeah.
special. And so I worry about that offense. I don't know to be able to manufacture a lot of yards, a lot of explosive plays, a lot of points. They're going to lean on Henry a ton, and he's been crazy. His high school statistics are insane. His NFL statistics are insane. I just worry that at some point he breaks down. The counterpoint
Yeah.
for Drew is he has Michael Pittman with now a better quarterback, another
That's
year
right.
experienced. I think Michael Pittman's easily a top 10 receiver if he stays healthy all year.
Mm-hmm.
I think that was a steal. I mean, last year
Yeah.
and then deep in the draft. To me, when I look at this and I look at all the keepers, I worry about Manny. I worry about Evan.
Kareem
I don't worry
Hunt
about
is a tough one.
yeah. Manny, it's tough, right? Kareem Hunt, he's going to catch a lot of passes. Great. The offensive line's good. We know that. But the problem is you're going to have subpar quarterback play first 12 weeks of the year, first 11 games.
Yeah.
That's one, or 12 games a year. That's a problem. The other problem there is they've lost over the years. They've slowly gotten worse on the outside. I don't think Cooper's the solution. We'll see where he goes in our
Mm-hmm.
draft. He could be a steal in terms of value, depending where you get him. But with Jacoby Brissett at quarterback, it's not like teams are scared of the passing. They're going to put 8-9 guys in the box. So I worry about Hunt at some point. The Kamara situation's just odd with the legal situation
Right.
where, the NFL won't suspend until that's resolved. The court dates are now pushed beyond the year, but if they get settled or something, the NFL could act at any moment. So we've seen the NFL just changes its mind and does whatever it
Right.
wants. So Kamara has the ability to be a top 5 running back. Man, he's still getting really good value there, and that was a trade last year, early in the year, good for Manny. But Kamara, I mean, if he plays 17 games, he great. But I feel like there's a lot of boom bust potential. Benefit for Manny is, he picks 10th in the first. Oh, he doesn't pick in the first round, and he picks
Mm-hmm.
early in the second. He's kind of set at running back, so he can just focus receiver. But he doesn't have Manny's one we probably should have touched on work to do.
Yeah.
Because he's only got 2 picks in the first 5 rounds, and yeah, that's because he's got his keepers, and everything. But he doesn't have a first rounder. It's
That's
not a
right.
third. So he's going to be hurting. He's going to be pretty weak at receiver. Manny's going to have to really make sure he hits. But to me, the one I really wanted to focus on is Evan. Evan overseas, may or may not watch pods all the time, may not follow real closely. Antonio Gibson to me is one that I just go, man, that is somebody living off of like 2 year ago production who
Yeah.
isn't looking at the fact that the guy's been running on special teams in training camp and preseason, which is not a good sign if you're a number one running back. So that
Well,
one
all
kind
that
of
stuff
boggles my mind.
too, unfortunately for him,
Hmm.
that all happened. Like it really all started to like the cascade of bad news started to happen like on Sunday.
Yeah,
That
it was
it
like
was
late in
like
the
the day
week
after the
on the
keeper
Sunday. Yeah,
deadline. It's like,
yeah.
oh, Antonio
Yeah,
Gibson isn't as good anymore.
yeah. You had to be following the reports closely, like Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and then it was obviously too late. But
Mhm.
as a fourth round keeper, I mean, it's hard to keep a running back as a fourth round keeper in this league unless that running back is going to give you top 10 or at least top
Mhm.
15 production, right? Like, I just don't see why you would keep a running back who doesn't have that potential. And Gibson's I mean, there's three running backs there. McKissick
Right.
catches passes. Robinson's going to, get carries because he's a bigger body. And so Gibson has to stay healthy and outperform two other guys in two different ways. It just, as a fourth rounder, I mean, look, it's not my
I mean,
team,
yeah,
but hey, at least that means DeAndre Hopkins and his, suspension are out there in the draft
that's
pool.
right.
Somebody will get the value of DeAndre Hopkins missing half the season, picking him up in God knows what round. But
It could be
um,
you.
yeah, I don't know. I would say he'd have to fall to me at a nice value spot. I'm not
Hmm.
going to take DeAndre Hopkins in the first four rounds.
Right.
So I mean, I don't know what you do with a guy who's going to miss significant time like that. You know,
Yeah.
so
You just sort of hope for the best. I know there's been so many times where like people stash for, you know, week 9 return, week 7 return, but then it's like, well, a guy gets hurt, I need the spot now. So
yeah.
what do you do? And I think that's always
Well,
a tough one there.
it's not he's suspended. It's not a
Right.
designation where you can stash him on IR. So we
Nope.
should put this out. There's now one IR spot, not two. Okay.
Hmm.
The IR spots are PUP, COVID, IR, the traditional stuff
The
plus COVID in
classic
case someone
stuff.
gets the classic stuff, right? This isn't like some guy's out for the week. Commissioner exempt
Right.
list doesn't count, right? So you've got to be, you know, if you're going to hold on to him or obviously Watson as a whole, 12 games is I mean, to hold on to someone for 2/3 of the year,
Yeah.
pretty risky to limit your bench, right?
Hmm.
So, you can't stash them. This isn't like what Justin did with Dobbins. Oh, I'll just pick up
Right.
Dobbins, throw him in the IR spot, right?
Exactly.
It's not that. So yeah, I don't know what you do with Hopkins. I think it's Evan finally moving on. Michael Thomas, DeAndre Hopkins, but
It
um,
was time.
it was definitely time. I told Evan, you at the trade deadline, you need to move these guys. They don't have value forever. But
Yep.
so I don't, say la vie. So,
That's right.
um, but historically, right? We look at keepers. I know you did some breakdown on different drafts, different keeper situations. I
Yeah.
know I've mentioned this to you. I'm excited to see in a year or two where we now a lot of these guys, particularly at the running back position, will no longer be keepers just because the value won't be there.
Hmm.
So I'm curious to see what the turnover is in the keepers. Guys like
Right.
Kamara and Hunt. Just in general, Chubb. I mean, these guys, Aaron Jones. At some point, it's just no longer worth it to keep a guy as a second or third round keeper, especially as they get older and there's other players. So I'm excited to see the turnover year over year
That's
going
right.
forward. But historically, though, talk a little bit about what you did and kind of how you think it matters in terms of the league.
Yeah. So figured it as a little bit of a preview, some historical draft performances, thinking about what might we learn from the past and see how that might impact us in the future. So I'm going back to, I believe this was our first live draft, 2015, the second year of the Flea Flicker League,
Mm-hmm.
also known as the 3 first-round picks for Paul, Part 1. Each of those were Adrian Peterson, Rob Gronkowski, and Matt Forte. This was the Braden Oliver draft, which everyone still remembers fondly to this day. And our biggest move, if I recall correctly, and this may have portended how the season ended, was a giant argument between Beads timing out and me trying to get Shane Vereen at the 6-7 turn. I ended up getting Tom Brady as a part of that, And the more important part, while Paul and I were arguing about Shane Vereen, Tom Brady's 350-point season was much more important. So thinking about that, the picks that you don't think you would be important. Hey, we got the baby on screen. Welcome to our newest league joiner. Say hello. That's nice. He's a little fussy. So you're getting me right now. Hope you're enjoying that. So, we had the 3 first-round picks. Next year, the second iteration of 3 first-round picks, part 2. Had Adrian Peterson, Doug Martin, and Eddie Lacy for Paul. Beads did make the playoffs this year, but lost in round 1. Biggest move, Drew drafted Derrick Henry in round 9. He's, as we said, the oldest keeper in our league who was drafted. Tyreek Hill was a free agency pickup from Jacobs, who was then traded to me. So thinking about that 9-10 round can be a solid foundation for you going forward. 2017, as I like to call it, maybe Wagner isn't awful at that draft. Notable for half the league dealing with altitude sickness and a hangover post Father John Misty concert. But remembering that Wagner was able to pick up Alvin Kamara at round 11. So again, more foundational work, all very exciting. 2018, Wagner's not awful at this, part 2. Biggest move might not have actually been at the draft, but at the post-draft celebration, where Wagner swung a trade at a Montreal brewery, sending away Trubisky and Latavius Murray for Patrick Mahomes. Notable, of course, for Manny being red carded for all post-draft festivities. He did enjoy crashing a bachelorette party, as we all did. And then I'm not going to talk about what happened at dinner and afterwards. We'll see what happens in 2022 as that. And of course, in 2020, we were skipping 2019, skipping 2021. Nothing really too interesting happened. But 2020, Bodson, with our latest pick in draft history, that would be a 20th round pick, I believe. I will confirm that. But what that shows you is it can be done. Even if you have work to do, you could still show up and win the league. So that was actually 21st round pick, TJ Hawkinson. So you can do quite a bit with the bad draft position. Looking at some of the all-time 1.1 picks, this is what Justin's going to have to follow in the legacy. 2014, Matt Forte. 2015, Jamal Charles. 2016 through 18 was Antonio Brown. Last time a wide receiver was picked, 1.1. 2019, Saquon Barkley. 2020 and 2021, Christian McCaffrey. Barkley and McCaffrey are going to be available. Will we have 3 years of CMAC? Only time will tell. Lowell, are you in for a quick round of prop bets?
Yeah, sure. I mean, it's just interesting when you look at it historically. Obviously there's some names there. The Antonio Brown Pittsburgh years were quite good. Evan certainly benefited from that. Bodson just doesn't care. I mean, he will pick as late as it goes. And I think there's a truth in, at some point as the draft goes on, most people, no matter how many years we do this, continue to, at least kicker is a very late round pick. Defense, sporadically, someone will go, 1 or 2 people will go kind of early. But Bodson's, like, I can get, I don't know, handcuffs and a decent quarterback too, and all these things, if you just wait, it doesn't matter. At some point you get past round 16, it's just you.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's interesting. I'm happy to do prop bets. I don't know if you noticed this on the draft board. Tate's has, at the end of round 3, started round 4, he has 2 at the end of round 3, and then the second pick in round 4. And I will say this, since it's not going to happen, that Tate's did make an attempt to acquire 4 picks in a row. And I can't let you dictate that much of the 4th round to just pick 4 players. So he's got himself a nice little stack set up. But
I did not see that.
Certainly. Yeah. There's some weird quirks. like I said, Wagner picks like I think 10th in the first round and then first in the second. So he's got, I mean, there's some
Yes,
weird quirks when you really start to break down certain sections. It's fun when you mock and you go, oh my God, so and so's going to just destroy
that's
everybody
right.
for a round or two because of how they can influence it. But it'll be fun. It'll be fun. So yeah, I'm definitely down for some prop bets
All
while
right.
this
So
while
here
this little
are
guy feeds.
some in-person draft prop bets since you won't be here.
Okay.
Prop bet one. What inning does the league get its photo taken with the Philly Fanatic? Is it before or after the game is an official game? So in the middle of the fifth inning.
Oh, before.
Before?
Because
All right.
because inevitably. Well, what time does Paul arrive? Let me ask. Can I?
Well, I'm driving up with Paul at
Okay.
10 o'clock, so he should be able
Okay.
to get.
So
We should
yes.
be well ensconced.
Okay. I'll be
As
honest.
well.
I would wager that this will be done before the first pitch.
Before the first pitch.
But no, before the first pitch of the first inning.
All right.
So,
All right.
I would. I think Paul's going to be pretty liquored up, pretty boosted up, feeling it, and I think he's gonna find that fanatic. That big green furry ass sticks out, from space.
That's right.
I would not be surprised if that's accomplished before you hit the seat.
That's that. I think that's fair.
That's probably like a plus 150 type bet. Pretty short odds. So on that one,
Yeah.
So disappointed I won't
Yeah, of
be
course.
there with you guys. Obviously, this guy won't even be 4 weeks old when we draft. So.
You're gonna have the new dad luck. It certainly has helped out other league members in the past.
Yeah, well, I get. Yeah, I mean, it has certainly. Well, not really. No one's won with it with the kid's first year. People have had done well, but not.
That's true.
Maybe it's the lack of sleep or all the late night hours where you can just listen to fantasy podcasts while you feed because you're awake and you're a zombie anyway. Maybe it's that. So.
Yeah.
What else you got?
The next one, speaking of traveling, who's going to experience the most travel delays getting to the draft?
Okay.
So
define travel delay.
So let's just say in theory, so like Drew, I believe, is flying in. He should be getting in at like 10:30. Beads and I are driving in. We should be getting in at 1:30, 2 o'clock. Tates is driving in. Should get in 1:30, 2 o'clock. Wagner is taking the train from Richmond. Emmanuel is coming from points to be determined. So who do we think?
What are the roots of those points to be determined?
I don't know. I remember the one year that Manny did not come to New York because he just never bought a bus ticket. So
yeah, could have bought a $8 Chinatown bus ticket.
We'll see.
Yeah. What are Manny? See, my guess would be Manny because just inevitably how it's most likely to play out. I'm sure Drew's on a direct flight from Chicago. Wagner's taking Amtrak. I guess that's like some silver meteor,
That's
route.
right.
I mean, it's not that far.
I mean, it could if they're on the same train, Manny and Wagner can be both stuck, but we'll see.
I would say it's most likely Manny because one, he'll claim like work emergency. Two, he'll claim some tenant issue. He has to go to the house and figure something out. Three, he'll just forget about the time and miss whatever train he wants to be on. These are self-inflicted travel delays. But I think they should count. This isn't like weather or airplane cancellation.
Just are you going to be there?
Yeah, I would. I mean, Manny, he's just the most likely to forget, as we've experienced in the Northeast before. So,
It does
I
happen.
know it does. It does.
And
Oh.
finally, our last fun prop bet.
Hmm.
Will anyone make it to the following locations past 1 a.m. at any point in the live draft weekend? So
Oh, okay.
Saturday night at 1 a.m., Sunday at 1 a.m. The Sugar House or the Xfinity Live Casino?
Okay. I don't know what Sugar House is, but it sounds like a place with
Sugar
a
House
really
is also a
grand view.
casino.
Okay.
No, it's also a casino.
Which is closer in proximity to downtown Philly?
So Sugar House is, but
Okay.
Xfinity Live is in that sports complex. So you
Oh,
could just play, you could just go after the game and never leave.
well, but that doesn't count because then you haven't arrived after 1 a.m.
You just have to be in the building at 1 a.m.
Oh, well, then I see. I don't think you'll still be out at the complex at 1 a.m.
Yeah.
I think Sugar House is more likely because I could see. Well, you're going to be there. Harper's returning tomorrow night, so that'll be fun.
Is he really?
Yeah, apparently he's going to make his return tomorrow. That broke today.
Oh,
Um,
nice.
so yeah, look, you're hearing it first. Woj bomb.
That's right.
Um, you know, but I would say Sugar House. One, because of the name, Paul will very much want to go to Sugar House. And frankly, I just think that you're not going to Xfinity Live. I could see you go after the game, but then hey, let's go somewhere else. We've been here for two
Right.
hours, and you're not going to
That's
want
right.
to trek back out to that area again just to gamble. So I would say Sugar House has slightly shorter odds, but both are probably plus money
Mhm.
because this crew is more likely to search out a grand view at that hour than it is a casino, given its propensity for the amount of alcohol you would have consumed, particularly on Friday.
Well, speaking of poor monetary decisions, who's going to lose the most money playing blackjack on their phones? Because Pennsylvania is a state that has casino gambling on the phone.
Um, hmm, on the phone. I mean, Paul just it has an addictive personality, but I don't know that blackjack doesn't strike me as his fancy. So I would say, trying to think. I mean, Tate's, but blackjack's not really Tate's game. I think who else is going to be there? Is Bodson going to appear since he lives there?
Watson will be there. I believe he's at a wedding, so there will be like he'll show up after welcome drinks and after the wedding.
On
So
Friday?
he'll
The
be.
wedding's the Friday wedding?
I think it's a Saturday wedding.
Oh, I see. Well, you don't have me or Joe
I
or
think
Evan.
I'm a dark horse for that
Yeah,
one.
I'm just working my way through it. I would say you're probably the most likely candidate because I can't see Wagner's not that kind of person. Paul would rather chase Pokemon. Manny's not. He's too frugal. Drew, not his cup of tea. Kirshner's not there. Tates would rather chase G strings and craps tables. So, you know.
All right. And then into the last round of predictions. Name your division winners for this
Okay, let
year.
me go. Let me go look at my division. My division. Well, first I think I'm going to win my division. One because your lack of draft picks, early draft picks, really hampers your ability to likely be
Mm-hmm.
competitive, particularly early in the year until you can really sort the waiver wire and make trades and things. I think Jacobs is always tough. Jacobs is not easy, but I like my chances there. In the Wisey's division, I mean, I think really it's an Eric or Joe race. I just think Manny. I just think the Browns offense without Watson it's just not going to hit the highest level that you would
Right.
expect. I think Kamara could be a stud, but Manny, I really need Kamara to be a top 5 running back like he usually is. I just don't know if I see it. Evan, no, I mean, yeah, what Antonio Gibson penciled in for a few weeks is going to really hurt him. In the Leos division, this one's going to be interesting. I think you can take away Paul, but we didn't talk about Tate's keepers.
Yeah.
And James Conner. I mean, that is a really interesting combination. Akers, when he came back, first of all, his statistics pre-injury weren't great. When you looked at the analytics, post-injury, they were really bad. When you just think about his effectiveness, I do worry about that. If Stafford gets hurt, I really worry about Akers. James Conner, you don't have Edmonds there, so you should expect to see it. You'd think a monster year. Uh, but I just don't know. I just don't know that it's replicable. Connor is usually durable. I think Tate has a really good chance because with Kirshner again, he's gonna receiver. He's gonna be reaching
Hmm.
every opportunity. Every time he takes a receiver, he runs the risk of it being a reach. Not that it would be necessarily, but I just think it could be. Um, and yeah, I think there's just you can't expect Taylor to replicate that. So I would say in that division, probably Eric or Wagner, just because Wagner has all that draft ability, all that draft capital.
Yeah.
You know, so it's tough. I guess if I had to hang my hat on one, I'd probably go Wagner, just because he has the ability to really load up on elite talent. Plus Mahomes, I just don't think Mahomes is going to drop off like he has, like people think he will. I just don't think the
Yeah.
loss of Tyreek Hill was that big when you think about Andy Reid, the ability to
Just feed it all
scheme.
to Kelsey.
Go Kelsey. I don't think Juju's terrible. MVS is a deep threat with speed. There's still a lot of speed out there. I mean, Edwards-Hilaire's still going to be pretty good. So
Yeah. I think to my picks, I think it is you coming out of the Tombs division.
yeah,
Think we're gonna go Richmond out of Wisey's. And I think Wagner's got the best chance out of Leo's.
it's okay. Okay.
And then
Okay. You keep. I can hear you.
he just knows that I'm picking against Dad for the championship. I think it goes from Matt to Matt. I think Wagner wins the league over Lowell in the championship game. It feels like the stars are aligning for it.
That's a fair prediction. I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, a lot would have to happen. We both have to really hit on our early picks. We didn't talk about Renfro. I think Wagner would get enough crap for it in the draft itself. But, there were other options, right? I think he should have gone, I don't know, between Mooney and Amon-Ra St. Brown. I just don't think you go wrong either way there. But, it's
Yeah.
What's going on here? Come on. What's going on?
It is what it is there.
Oh.
I think he might be able to overcome that misstep. But Lowell, thanks for getting this set up. I know you're going to have to get your dad, but great to see you. Great to meet the newborn on the Zoom call. Everyone enjoy the draft. Stay safe. We'll see you all in Philadelphia.